Now, what if I told you guys that we have all been tricked into supporting a freedom-loving, pro-Bitcoin presidential candidate down in Argentina who is actually controlled by the World Economic Forum? Now, that sounds a little bit crazy, but this would not be the first time that the World Economic Forum has actually penetrated a government all around the world. Now, today we're not talking about Canada. We are actually talking about Argentina, and we're going to be talking about a man by the name of Javier Milei, who has just won the primary round of elections for the October 2023 Argentinian election. Now, many freedom lovers and Bitcoiners like myself are getting very, very excited about Javier Milei's potential election and potential presidency in Argentina. And that's because of some of the outrageous things and policies that he is actually proposing in Argentina. It's nearly too good to be true. In a recent interview this week, he got on news and said, guess what? Inflation is theft.
¿Los impuestos para ti son un mal necesario o sencillamente un mal?
No, son un robo.
Los impuestos.
Son un robo.
Now, that's only the first of many very interesting appearances that Javier has made on national TV. In this video, he's ripping little sticky notes off a whiteboard, essentially calling inflation a scam and central banking a scam.
Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Vamos a seguir por acá. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación. Algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Educación. Adoctrinamiento. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Transporte. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Salud. ¡Afuera!
And in one of his most popular interviews in 2017, I believe, he was actually blindfolded on national TV. And what the presenters kind of did was they got the Argentinian central bank and they made it into a big piñata. And Javier was just whacking it around there. A pretty incredible video. I will play it for you guys. Now,
Ahí está. Tranquilo, con tranquilidad. Simple. Cuidado, chicos, córranse. Pará. No, pará, cuidado. No, cuidado. Pará, acá, pará. Ahí. Pará. Bueno, basta. Pará. Ahí está.
No, listo.
Pará.
and he has also spoken positively about Bitcoin in a number of different interviews, but I believe we should be very, very, very careful about the politicians we endorse. And I think we should always look at what sort of connections they do have in their background, because I did a little bit of digging myself. I thought things were just too good to be true. Everybody loved the man with the mutton chops down in Argentina supporting freedom and sound money, and I found this. I found Javier Milei listed on the World Economic Forum site. And I know what some of you guys might be thinking, hey, you know, it's just a listing. It doesn't mean anything, okay? We need to be watching what he actually says. And look, don't get me wrong. I understand that argument. It might not mean anything, but let's dive deeper. Let's start looking at what is actually happening in Argentina and whether Javier Milei is a man to be trusted or not, because Argentina is very, very, very interesting, okay? They are one of the largest economies in Latin America. They've got a population of over 46 million people. And most importantly, or most interestingly, I should say, is they actually represent over 60% of the IMF's total loan book. So that means Argentina is essentially too big to fail. That means the IMF cannot afford Argentina to actually go bankrupt. And this is where things get a little bit interesting and we can start connecting those dots that I believe could be there. You guys let me know in the comments down below if you think I'm connecting dots that aren't there. But I thought it was strange that obviously IMF tried to discourage the use of Bitcoin and quote unquote crypto in Argentina back in 2022. And they essentially said to Argentina, look, we're going to give you a $45 billion loan, but you need to actually discourage the use of Bitcoin and crypto in your country. And guess what? that has obviously failed. As we can see here, adoption in Argentina is very high and it is only increasing by the day. There are reports on the ground that around 30 to 40% of all crypto transactions are actually done in US dollar stable coins. And this obviously routes around Argentina's local banking system. Now, this is obviously good for the citizens of Argentina who are trying to escape this enormous hyperinflationary event that is going on in the country, but it's very bad for the government, the banking system, and subsequently the IMF, because all of a sudden, if you have all of these transactions occurring outside of your banking system, all of a sudden the banks can't capture fees on those transactions and the government can't tax money that is not within its little jurisdiction, so to say. So all of a sudden, this makes the likelihood of an Argentinian bankruptcy higher by the day. And this obviously reflects very badly on the IMF, whose 60% of their loan book is in Argentinian loans. And a default on debt in Argentina would not be new to the country, because as we can see, Argentina has actually defaulted on its debt on over 8 different occasions since the year 1800, which is the 7th most amount of defaults out of any country over the past 220 years. So this addiction to just piling on more and more debt and obviously just consuming more than the country is producing is kind of what explains all of the inflation we see in Argentina. Okay, how do governments default on their debt? They inflate the debt away. It's very simple. When a government has too much debt to pay and too much leverage it needs to unwind, all that government does is it simply prints new money, devalues the money, and pays back the debt with the devalued dollars. It really is as simple as that. And you can see here, dating all the way back to 2002, Argentina has seen inflation above 20% in over 15 of those 21 years. That's absolutely absurd. They're used to seeing inflation more than 75% of the time over the past 2 decades. And why? Why have we seen so much inflation? Well, surprise, surprise, average inflation has been over 20% for the past 20 years, every single per year. And the money supply has rose by around 20% every single year, dating back to 2001. You really do have to ask yourself how Keynesian economists actually have a job. It is that simple. You print more money, obviously the price of things in the economy is going to go up. It's as simple as that. And you can see what this kind of rapid money printing has done to the Argentinian peso. If we go back in time to the year 2000, so 23 years ago, you only needed 1 Argentinian peso to buy 1 US dollar. But what happens to the purchasing power of the Argentinian peso when you're expanding the money supply by 20% per year? Well, let's take a look. We can see in 2010, so 10 years later, all of a sudden the Argentinian peso just lost 75% of its value against the US dollar. That obviously meant that you now needed 4 Argentinian pesos to buy 1 US dollar. Now, if you move another 10 years into the future, have a look at this. All of a sudden, you need 150 Argentinian pesos to get 1 US dollar. And today, only 3 years later, in 2023, you actually need 770 Argentinian pesos to get 1 US dollar. That means you just essentially lost over 99% of your purchasing power if you were holding Argentinian pesos from the year 2000. Now, that is absurd, and that is why the people are voting in a man like Javier Milei, who is promising change. He's saying, look, inflation is a tax, central banking is a scam, sound money is the way to go. The situation that Argentina has seen over the past 20 years has created some pretty interesting Weimar-like events happen in the country. So because it's all happened so quickly, Argentina's largest denominated bill, the 1,000 peso bill, is only worth around $2. So this means that when you're trying to pay for goods and services in the country, things can look a little bit extreme, as we can see from these photos here. So obviously nobody uses their credit cards in the country because all of the banking system operates off the Argentinian government's conversion rate. So the official conversion rate for US dollars is around the 300 to 400 mark, where the blue market rate for the Argentinian peso is actually near 800, okay? It's in the 700s, which means there's like a 50% gap between the real blue market rate and the official government rate. So everybody uses cash, and this is why you can see all of these really cool pictures coming out of Argentina where you need to actually like fill up a big backpack full of cash just to go and pay for dinner. Now, if you want to see more of these really cool images coming out of Argentina, make sure you check out our free newsletter that we did publish on this video. Again, there is only so many charts, graphs, and statistics that we can cram into these YouTube videos. So that puppy is linked down below. But this headache of having to carry around a big backpack full of cash is only one reason why the Argentinians want change. You can see from this chart here that Argentina has had 5 recessions in the past 10 years, okay? America had a little bit of a panic attack when we have a recession every 7 years. Imagine having one every 2 years. It's absolutely crazy. Poverty in the country is absolutely skyrocketing, and this is why the people are desperate for change. This is why they're voting in a leader like Milei. Okay, and it's worth noting that Milei has actually won this primary round of elections by a pretty decent margin. We can see here from this chart that he garnered nearly 32% of the votes, and his next most competitive rival was at least 5 percentage points lower than Milei. So we can see that the people are really liking what Milei is promising. He is promising to dollarize the country. He's also planning to abolish the central bank. He wants to slash government spending, and of course, we don't know his exact plans for Bitcoins, but he has actually talked about embracing Bitcoin. So what do you guys think? Should we be trusting Javier Milei? Should we be a little bit cautious? Is there any more evidence of him being connected to the World Economic Forum? So me personally, I think we should be cautious of any politician. But if I was in Argentina, I'm not going to lie. I'm probably going to be voting for Mr. Javier Milei with the big mutton chops, okay? What he's saying in public is brilliant, and he was listed on the World Economic Forum site a long time ago, and the WEF do try to partner with literally any politician, okay? So yes, be cautious out there. If you do find any more receipts or interesting connections that Javier has, let me know in the comments down below. That is all I could personally find, alongside one little interview where he was speaking at the World Economic Forum. There was nothing really major in that interview that he did say that set off any alarm bells in the back of my mind. But irrespective of whether Javier Milei wins or he doesn't win, or whether he does win and he's a good guy or a bad guy, it does not matter. I think the Argentinian people have seen enough. They are absolutely voting with their money today. We can see that Argentina has some of the highest rates of Bitcoin adoption in the world. And we can also see here that out of the international workers around the world, those in Argentina are actually demanding to get paid in Bitcoin. So there's a company called Deal, and they just help workers get paid in whatever currency they want. So that can also be cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. And they said that adoption in Argentina was amongst some of the highest in the world. And there was like a 27% increase in the amount of volume actually demanded in Argentina in the past couple of months. So the people are opting out. And of course, we know that there is enormous amounts of stablecoin adoption in Argentina, but concerningly, a lot of this stablecoin adoption is actually done between centralized exchanges. So in Argentina, you can pay for US Tether in lots of different places and even exchange that Tether to get local pesos. But a lot of the local merchants, they actually use exchanges such as CoinBase and in particular Binance and Tron, because those are the exchanges with the cheapest fees. And these people don't care about, you know, the exchanges being centralized and the fact that Tether and Circle can be frozen at the click of a fingers, okay? So if you are in Argentina and if you are trying to get outside the banking system, make sure you're using Bitcoin and make sure you're taking whatever coin you're using into your own self-custody. Now, look, it's great that the Argentinians are finding some sort of value out of their US dollar stablecoins. We recommend they check out Bitcoin, though, because Bitcoin is up over 35x since 2020 in the Argentinian peso. So hopefully it's only a matter of time before the Argentinians dump those stable coins that they are using to actually use as a medium of exchange and just adopt Bitcoin, okay? Yes, it's volatile, but it is a far better store of value in the short, medium, and the long term, okay? And if you are using Bitcoin, get it off an exchange. Don't use Tron, don't use Binance. Go get a hardware wallet. There's a bunch of great Bitcoin-only ones out there. You guys can get 5% off the BitBox 02 Bitcoin-only hardware wallet If you use a promo code CB5, so that stands for CoinBeast5. CoinBeast is the Bitcoin-only educational company that does power this YouTube channel. And we believe this is the most important vote that anyone can make, okay? Voting with your economic power is far superior than making any sort of political votes. I personally haven't actually voted in well over 8 or 9 years, I think, in any sort of Australian election, because I'm not going to vote for a politician. I'm not going to vote for a government official. None of them have your best interests in heart, okay? Unless a politician is going to abolish the central bank and return the country to a sound money standard, it doesn't matter what they say, okay? If the money is broken, everything else is broken. It doesn't matter what flawed policy they make on top of a broken fiat system. It's absolutely going to end in tears. It's going to end in ruins, and it's going to end in riots in the street. And we can see that Argentina has actually had many inflation riots. The videos I'm showing you now actually come from an inflation riot that happened in mid-2022. And since then, the peso's lost about 90% of its value against the US dollar. So this is why the people are absolutely fed up with change, okay? But it's not only happening in Argentina that people are kind of sick of inflation. They're sick of their leaders. They're sick of being lied to, okay? This kind of movement of change has been going on for well over 10 years now. We can see from this chart here that the amount of protests we're seeing in the 2020s and even the 2010s absolutely dwarfed any time in the past 80 to 90 years. And that is because we are in a global fourth turning. For those who know about this brilliant 90-year fourth turning cycle, that does predict all of these political upheavals that we do see every 90 years. You're well aware, you're informed about what is going on in the world today, and all of the chaos kind of makes a lot more sense when you have this 90-year fourth turning cycle framework that you are looking at the world through. What we are seeing today is completely predictable, and that is what the fourth turning cycle predicted. It showed that every 90 years, society has some of these major breakdowns and major upheavals where the people say, okay, enough is enough. The wealth inequality is too far. We need to actually rip down the institutions that are corrupt and elect new institutions. We can see every 90 years, it happens like absolute clockwork. In the 1930s and the 1940s, we obviously had the rise of Mussolini, Hitler, and we had World War II. 90 years before that fourth turning, we of course had the American Civil War in the 1860s, and 90 years before that, we had the American and the French revolutions. And every fourth turning ends in a war. So let us know in the comments down below, do you think we are headed for war? I personally hope that Bitcoin is the peaceful revolution that actually ends this fourth turning cycle without the need for war, but who knows what is going to happen. If you want to learn more about the fourth turning cycle and what comes next, we recommend you check out the video that we did record on that topic right there. But if you're sick of the doom and the gloom and you want to watch something a little bit more crazy, a little bit more optimistic, in a recent video, we laid out the case for why one Bitcoin could be worth over $100 million per coin. You guys can check that video out right there. And with all that said, I'll see you all in the next video.